Darwin's Theory of Evolution Part 1. Does it explain the origin of life? The creation of the universe is explained in the Bible's book of Genesis. God was the source of everything. However, the views expressed in the Bible and scientific consensus have often disagreed. They make people wonder, for example, is God the genuine creator of the universe, or was it something else? One of the famous scientific theories is Darwin's theory of evolution. Let us explore what evolution theory is and see if it explains well the origin of life. What is Darwin's theory of evolution? According to Grudem, in modern Darwinian evolutionary theory, the history of the development of life began when a mix of chemicals present on the earth spontaneously produced a very simple, probably one-celled life form. The living cell reproduced itself, and eventually there were some mutations or differences in the new cells produced. These mutations led to the development of more complex life forms. A hostile environment meant that many of them would perish, but those that were better suited to their environment would survive and multiply. Thus, nature exercised a process of natural selection, in which the organisms most fitted to the environment were the ones that survived. More and more mutations eventually developed into more and more varieties of living things. So, that formed the very simplest organism, all the complex life forms on Earth eventually developed through this process of mutation and natural selection. Is it really possible for one chemically mixed cell to reproduce itself without the help of God? The most recent critic of current Darwinian theory comes from Philip E. Johnson, a law professor who specializes in analyzing the logic of arguments. In his book Darwin on Trial 26, he quotes extensively from current evolutionary theories to demonstrate that, number 1, after more than 100 years of experimental breeding of various kinds of animals and plants, the amount of variation that can be produced, even with intentional, not random, breeding, is extremely limited due to the limited range of genetic variation in each type of living thing. Dogs who are selectively bred for generations are still dogs. Fruit flies are still fruit flies, etc. And when allowed to return to the wild state, the most highly specialized breeds quickly perish and the survivors revert to the original wild type. He concludes that natural selection, claimed by Darwinists to account for the survival of new organisms, is really a conservative force that works to preserve the genetic fitness of a population, not to change its characteristics. Number 2. In current evolutionary arguments, the idea of survival of the fittest or natural selection is popularly thought to mean that those animals whose different characteristics give them a comparative advantage will survive, and others will die out. But in actual practice, almost any characteristics can be argued to be either an advantage or a disadvantage. So, how do Darwinists know which characteristics have given an advantage in survival to certain animals? By observing which kinds survive. But this means that natural selection is often at bottom not a powerful new insights into what happens in nature but simply a tautology, a meaningless repetition of the same idea, since it boils down to saying that the fittest animals are those who have the most offspring. In this sense, natural selection means animals who have the most offspring have the most fit offspring. But this proves nothing about any supposed mutations to produce different, more fit offspring over the course of many generations. Why should we interfere with the survival of the fittest, which is the unavoidable process of natural selection that leads to the betterment of living forms on Earth, by providing care for the weak and defenseless? Is it not preferable for us to let them perish without procreating in order to progress toward a new, superior species of humans, perhaps even a master race? The origin of life is not well explained by the idea of evolution, because the earth and the skies could not only have been marvelously and magnificently created by a divinely powerful being. People are wonderful, but their greatness stems from the fact that God made them. Most intelligent and superior being in the universe, God, created humans. Genesis 2:7 puts it, "Then the Lord God formed the man of dust from the ground and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and the man became a living creature." A wonderful God indeed, is the one who could create such a marvelous creature as the human being. Let us therefore thank God for our lives.